All right, before we dive in and start really looking at these different content types, let's first get clear on what the goals are at the awareness stage. All right, so let's go back to our customer value journey graphic, and now I've overlaid some other information here, and you can see the "You Are Here" icon there as well. You can see the goals at the awareness and engagement stage are to increase applause rate. I'll tell you what that is in just a second. Increase impressions, increase time commitment, increase brand and offer awareness, and grow retargeting lists. Let's take a look at each one of these in turn. So when we talk about applause rate, this is a metric that, as far as I know, was invented by Avinash Kaushik from, the big ambassador from Google and very, very smart analytics guy. And I love this metric. I think I've changed it up a little bit, but the basic concept is that we want to see applause at the awareness stage. We want to see people clapping, right? And how do we clap online? How do we stand up and give an ovation online? Well, we share things socially. We comment. We put things out and link to it and mention it on our channels and drive more awareness for it. And that is the concept of applause. And so when I want to take and have an actual metric here, if you're looking to actually track this, I add all of these three things together, and that's what I call the applause rate. So you can actually get down to the post level or the video level or the audio level or whatever it is. So for a podcast, it might be downloads, right? So you're looking for applause, okay? You're also looking to increase impressions. So impressions is an old school term that we've moved into the internet. And an impression is simply, a set of eyeballs has seen it, right? So they didn't necessarily interact with it, they saw it. Okay, so what do we use to measure impressions online at the awareness stage? Because think about it, no one can first become aware of your content, your brands, all your products, your services until they've seen it, right? So measuring impressions is important at this stage. Some people might call this a vanity metric, like, oh, we got traffic, or we got we got more retweets or more likes. A lot of people will refer to these as vanity metrics, but I will disagree with that. What you want to do is measure these things and understand what's being told to you by these metrics, okay? These metrics are not things you can put into the bank. You can't deposit visits and impressions and social shares into the bank, but you do need to be able to drive awareness in order to move people down the journey. All right, so these are not vanity metrics. They're important metrics. You just need to understand what they mean. So you have things like visits, views, sessions on, if you're using Google Analytics, they use the term sessions. Impressions, right, is another term that will be used by things like Facebook advertising. Google advertising will tell you how many impressions things are getting. So what you're looking for here, bottom line, is eyeballs. Now, we also want at the front end of this thing, at the aware and engage stages, we want to increase time commitment. All right, so we vote on the types of things that we like and enjoy and want more of through using two things: our time and our money. All right, so we either spend time with it or we spend money on it. And some would argue that, including me, that today spending time with something is even more important than spending money on it. Because if you can get somebody to spend time with something, eventually they will be very likely to spend money on it. So you're looking to drive more time on page, more, commitment shown by your audience to your content. So you're going to measure things like time on site, time on page, watch time. If you're using YouTube or a lot of video sharing sites, they have a metric called watch time. Session duration, like how long did somebody interact with you? And then things like audience retention is another metric you might see depending on what tool you're using. In other words, how long were you able to retain the audience on that piece of content? Now, we also want to be increasing brand awareness and offer awareness. So we want to use aware and engage content to show people what we sell. All right. So if you've ever been, reading a blog or on a podcast and you're like, I listen to this podcast all the time. I don't know what this company does. I don't know what they sell. I don't know what their offer is. I don't know anything about this company, but they have great content. That is not just bad marketing, it's a bad UX. Remember, we talked about that. You need to hand people along to the next stage. So in this case, Barclaycard, who's created a really great resource at the aware and engage stages for small business owners, you can see that they advertise their own stuff right there inside the content because they want to drive awareness. They may not be getting a lot of conversions directly out of their blog, but they're getting a lot of impressions and awareness on what they offer. Now, the last thing I want to talk to you about is that at the aware and engage stages, we want to grow retargeting lists. And I can't tell you just how important this is to understand, is that the way that advertising, digital advertising on Facebook, Google, et cetera, and content marketing interacts is through this concept of retargeting. Let's talk about that. All right, so remember, we show true interest in something, not by just saying, hey, I'm interested in that and saying it, but by committing our time and our money. All right, so because of this, because especially of this concept that committing time to something shows me true interest, we are able to use content as an enormous segmentation tool. All right, so this is a really important concept. So if you're kind of gone to sleep on me, pay attention right here, okay? Segmentation is an important part of marketing, right? We want to know, hey, this group of people are interested in this group of people is interested in this group of people is interested in that. So we can use content as a segmentation tool. If we look at, doesn't matter what traffic source. Let's look at the top of this graphic here. We could have social traffic. We could have traffic from search engines. We could have paid traffic. We could have traffic coming in from email. And you can see these various different types of content. And I used recipes just because it's a very simple thing to understand, right? On the left, you've got 3 vegetarian recipes. In the middle, you have 3 vegan recipes. And on the right, you have 3 gluten-free recipes, okay? Now, what do we know, or what can we assume about somebody that comes in and starts spending time with a vegetarian recipe? Okay, I probably don't need to answer that question. What can we assume about somebody that's interacting with vegan recipes, gluten-free recipes? We can assume that these people are vegetarians, gluten-free folks, or vegan folks, and we can follow up with the right offer, right? So we can, to make this really simple, we have 3 different cookbooks we're trying to sell, and we retarget or we remarket to people that interact with our content. So they're reading a free recipe on our blog or on a video or whatever it is. They're watching a recipe, watching me cook a vegetarian recipe. So we can then assume that they're vegetarians, and we can then make them the right offer. So we can make them the 1-dish vegetarian meals offer or the gluten-free Bible offer. All right. Now, when we couple this idea of segmentation, all right, because they're spending time with it, we're seeing true interest. We can then create content that attracts the right audience, and then we add this concept of retargeting. So while content segments, we want to then retarget with the right offer. So let's take a look once again at our this graphic here. So we've got a bunch of different traffic sources along the left. We got ads, we got AdWords, we got YouTube ads, we got email marketing, we got social media. It's driving traffic into our ultimate list of blog post ideas article. And that is showing interest, right? Somebody's interacting with that blog post about blog post ideas. They are showing interest in blogging, right? They're showing interest in being a content marketer. So we can then set a pixel or a cookie, all right? That's what that little M&M cookie's there for, is to show you that we're gonna then use Facebook or Google or whatever it is to set a cookie on that person's machine that was visiting that piece of content. Then when they go into Facebook or Google, we are then going to show them the right offer, right? We're not going to show them an offer about email marketing when they were reading a post about blogging. They are showing interest in blogging. Let's show them the next step in the journey Let's content baton them along in the journey using retargeting. So in this case, we had somebody reading a ultimate list of blog post ideas. We drove traffic into that content so they get a good experience and become aware. But then how are we going to move them along? Well, we're going to go in, we're going to set a cookie. When they go back into Facebook, we're going to retarget them to the next phase of the journey, which is we want to get them to make that left turn. We want to get them to subscribe, right? So we're going to make an offer like the 10-point blog post audit, which is part of this certification. So you're going to get that audit. But you're going to have the 10-point blog post audit. You can see this ad. This is a retargeting ad that says, hey, use the 10-point blog post audit to take your blog post from meh to magnificent fast. I wrote that copy, by the way. Not that ad, but that's in the post. Take it from meh to magnificent and learn what the perfect blog post looks like. Okay, so what happens if somebody clicks on this ad is we're going to show them to the next stage of the journey. We're going to talk more about this in the next module, but you can see we're going to take them over to a landing page where we're going to ask them for their contact information. And this is how we drive leads at the subscribe stage and how we use content to segment and retarget. So this is a really powerful concept. If you need to, back the video back up and listen to this part again, this is a really key and critical part of this understanding of, if we want to drive leads at scale, and that's something we're going to talk about in the next module, but you're going to want to use segmentation and retargeting at the awareness stage on your videos and your articles and things like that.